Grandad Mandela. One day, Zazi and Ziwelene were playing at Grandma Zindi's house when they found a photograph. It was someone they remembered very well. "Look, Grandma," said Zazi, "we found a picture of Grandad Mandela. Can you tell us about him again?" "Of course," Grandma Zindi replied. "As you know, Grandad Mandela was my father, but he went to jail when I was only 18 months old." "Why did Grandad go to jail?" asked Zazi. "He went to jail because he was fighting against apartheid. Apartheid was a law in South Africa that separated black people and white people and said that white people were better. Grandad was fighting for us all to be equal. You know, like we say, I love you lots like jelly tots. We're different colours, but we all taste the same." "Uh-huh," said Zazi. "That's what Grandad Mandela was fighting for." "Did Grandad have to have his birthday in prison?" asked Ziwelene. "Yes, but he wasn't allowed to have a party. We had to celebrate it for him outside. Big Mummy still had their wedding cake, which they never had time to cut when they got married. Every year on his birthday, she would bring it out, light a candle, and say a prayer." "Grandma, where were you when he was in prison?" asked Ziwelene. "I was left at home in Soweto with Big Mummy and my sister, Zenani." "Did you like it?" asked Zazi. "It was hard. We weren't allowed to live in the same places as white people, and our houses, schools, and hospitals weren't as good as theirs. And when black people and people of colour said it wasn't fair, the police were very harsh." "But why did the white people start making everybody's lives sad?" asked Ziwelene. "It's because white people were taught under colonisation and apartheid to hate," said Grandma Zindi. "They were taught that they were better than black people." "Did they make your life sad too?" asked Ziwelene. "Yes," Grandma Zindi replied. "Every time Big Mummy sent us to school, the apartheid police would come and throw us out. Even if we changed our names and pretended we were someone else, they would still find us. So when I was 5 and Zenani was 6, some kind people helped us to go to a boarding school in Swaziland. We only came home in school holidays to see Big Mummy and the rest of the family." "That's sad," said Zazi. "You know, Zazi," said Grandma Zindi, "don't have to be too sad. Do you know what Big Mummy used to teach us? She said, 'I don't want to see you cry, because then the enemy will be happy. I want to see you strong. You must hold your head up high.' Big Mummy and Grandad Mandela were strong people because of how they grew up." "I've got a question about that," said Ziwelene. "Where was Big Mummy born?" "Winnie Mandela was born in Bizana, which is near the Wild Coast. She was born amongst the Pondo people, who produced the best warriors in history. Grandad comes from the Tembu people. They're both from royal families." "Ooh," said Zazi. "Royal." "Yes," said Grandma Zindi. "Where did Grandad Mandela grow up?" asked Zazi. "Well," said Zindzi, "he was born in Menzo, but he grew up in Kunu." "I've been there," said Zazi. "I know you have," said Grandma Zindi. "When he grew up, Grandad lived in a traditional home made out of clay with a thatched roof. He had to get water from the river and cook in pots on the fire. But the lessons that he learnt from his elders made him the man he became. A man who was able to forgive all the people who made him and his family and his people suffer." "Did Grandad go to school like us?" asked Ziwelene. "Yes," said Grandma Zindi. "When he was older, he studied law. He wanted to learn how to bring about justice in South Africa." "What is justice?" asked Ziwelene. "Justice is about people's rights. It means you have to ask what is right for everybody, what is fair. Grandad didn't think that was happening in South Africa was fair." Were other people wanting justice too? Asked Ziwelene. Yes, Grandad wasn't the only one who felt that apartheid was wrong, said Zindzi. The whole world said that it was evil, and black people didn't like the way they were treated. When white people would tell them that they weren't good enough, they wanted to fight. They thought, if Grandad and Big Mummy could fight and even go to prison to get justice, then they could too. Why did the government make Grandad stay in prison for so long? Asked Llewellyn. They kept him in prison because they were hoping that the longer he stayed, the more tired he would become and he would give up fighting for his people. But he didn't, and they hoped that people would forget him and what he stood for. But they didn't. Big Mummy, me, and many other people carried on fighting for freedom. All of these people kept Grandad's spirits alive. Did Grandad have a plan to escape from prison? Asked Llewellyn. No, he never tried to escape, said Grandma Zindzi. He wanted to be in South Africa to fight for his people. No one was going to force him to leave his country. It was important to him that people knew he was there. He knew that out of prison, all over the world, people were pushing harder and harder for him to be free. And eventually, Grandad was released. Were people happy? Asked Zazi. People were so happy, said Grandma Zindzi. They were lining the streets when we drove out of the prison gates. It took Grandad a long time to get back to Soweto because all the streets were blocked. It was raining heavily, but people were sleeping in the streets just so they could see him. There was singing and dancing. Everyone was so happy. Everyone? Asked Llewellyn. All South Africans, black and white, said Grandma Zindzi. What did Grandad do when he became president? Asked Zazi. The first thing he did was to unite all South Africans. He reminded us all that we were equal, and this is what we were fighting for everyone to live side by side. No one person was better than another. He made sure that everybody could go to the same schools, everybody could live where they wanted to live, we could all go to the same hospitals. So apartheid was over? Asked Llewellyn. That's right. And do you know how he did that? He got his enemies to sit with him around a table. That must have been hard, said Zazi. But Grandma Zindzi had a question for them both. Do you know what Ubuntu means? She asked. I think I used to, said Zazi. It means I am because we all are, said Grandma Zindzi. This is what we believe as African people. We believe in treating people the way we want to be treated. This is what inspired Grandad to fight for his people and what helped him to forgive his enemies too. Do you miss Grandad Mandela? Asked Ziwelene. Of course, said Grandma Zindzi. But I know a good way to remember him. Do you know what volunteering is? Yes, said Zazi. We volunteer to say we care about everyone, to make them feel happy and not make them feel like they don't belong anywhere. That's right, Zazi, said Grandma Zindzi. Do you know what that means? What? said Ziwelene. You are both doing the same thing as Grandad Mandela. And that's the end of the story.